This is Alabama wide receiver Jermaine Burton.
On tape, I think he's a late round 2 guy. He's a top 12 wide receiver to me because he can boogie downfield. I thought his hands were fantastic. There's some acrobatic catches at the catch point, on the sideline, and then even on some in-breaking routes. And I think that's the difference-making trait for me with Jermaine Burton. Compared to vertical wide receivers, he's able to play on the outside because he can beat press coverage, because he has some physicality to him. And he's got a little bit more density where I think he can play through contact, which to me means there could be a little bit something left for the future, because at Alabama, their offense was all vertical routes based off of the quarterback play. If Jermaine Burton, when I've seen that flashes on some slant routes and some dig routes and some out routes, maybe he can be a little bit more than just this low volume, deep threat. So on tape, loved what I saw from Jermaine Burton.
Let's do some numbers that matter to back that up a little bit. 6 foot, 196 pounds, does have shorter arms, 4.45, 40, 153, 10-yard split. And that athleticism that you talked about, 82nd percentile vertical jump, 95th percentile broad jump. 13 of 61 targets this past season were inside the numbers. Again, that means 48 of 61 were outside the numbers, pinned along the sideline. Now, as you said, major part of that was the quarterback play. They just pushed it because of the style of passer they had back there. Because with Bryce Young the year before, he did have 26 passes over the quote unquote middle of the field. As you said, the deep ball tracking from one shoulder to the other, he didn't like have to turn his entire body, which is like a tiny little detail, but one that I always look for because again, it allows you to continue that forward momentum. And it's just so much easier to go from one to the other. Was something that popped up for me. I do wonder if he is a role player, and then if he proves to be more than a role player, you're kind of getting something that you didn't draft in terms of high draft capital, and it's almost an added bonus on top of it. But that role playing verticality is definitely beneficial for an NFL team.
So my comps, like Darius Slayton's kind of in that role where we're like waiting for him to kind of turn the corner. Torrey Smith was a downfield guy. And then Michael Gallup is like my upside comp with Jermaine Burton, who was a vertical guy. And then for a time before his knee injury was kind of actually doing a little bit of everything. I think that's what I'm hoping for with Jermaine Burton. Those points where you're talking about so many of his throws were near the sideline. That makes his 0% drop rate look even better, especially because all these are really downfield catches, and some of those are way easier to drop because you have to do the ball tracking. And then he also caught 56% of his contested grabs. These aren't 7-yard contested catch situations. These are way down the field. So that's just like really impressive. His ball tracking, his leaping ability, and also just the ability to kind of stay grounded and play through contact. And I comparing to like Troy Franklin's and those guys, maybe a little bit faster than he is, but Jermaine Burton's a different type of vertical wide receiver, and I think that we can dream a little bit more from Jermaine Burton. He led Alabama in back-to-back years in receiving 2 totally different offenses that you're talking about, did not get the target volume that anybody else in this class does, but that 95th percentile broad jump, the 4.45 speed, and then at times, like especially in that Michigan game, when Alabama really needed to get the ball on a first down, there's a couple glimpses of him being able to fight through contact, yards after the catch, obliterating a safety, and then running after the catch. So I think there's something to it, but he's not been overly productive. He's gone to 6 different schools in the last 8 years, 6 different schools. There's something that's up with Jermaine Burton that we can't explain. And I'm not going to like totally get into that. Well, but if he slides further than this, that's probably why.
It is fascinating. I mean, he started at Georgia in his collegiate career. His freshman season was the same one that, again, Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey, Adonai Mitchell, James Cook, all these dudes were on that roster. Yeah. Then transfers to Bama. Again, a lot of connective tissue between these 2 programs. On paper, it would make you think that he can take coaching. We've heard about the hard coaching at Georgia. Obviously at Alabama, tons of hard coaching there. He does have the easy speed. Doesn't look like he's running too fast, but then when he's even with you, he's just right by you. And the game that really stood out to me was that Texas A&M game. I think those corners are going to have nightmares. And then, as you pointed out, he had the same, I thought, issue that Keon Coleman ran into, that some of those contested targets down the field were forced and not really there, and kind of unfair if they are viewed as winnable situations for him. Saw him armbar, create space along that sideline, adjust into the air, and creating the sliver of separation with that athleticism to go up and get it in those big explosive plays, which are being more and more difficult, becoming more and more difficult to create at the NFL level, is again a role that is important. Just major questions for me if he's going to be more than that.
Yeah, and I think talking about just like using his arms like in the route down the field, that's when you can throw like back shoulder fades to him. And that's not just only deep spread. You got to have 5 yards separation. There's kind of this in between that you're getting with Jermaine Burton. Just to kind of hit on, there's one incident though where there was a female fan rushing the field after Alabama lost, and he hit her in the head. Obviously, we can't have that. There's maybe other issues that Jermaine Burton's had off the field. So that's why his draft status can go 2nd round, 5th round. Who knows with this guy? But me just judging off of his tape, I think that he was one of the better deep threats out there. And the athletic testing to me was not a surprise at all.
The tracking and maybe that more glimpses of route running probably takes him out of like that De'Ami Brown tier and more into the group that you're talking about, the Darius Slaytons, maybe Torrey Smith. Even though Torrey Smith at times has been like incredibly productive early in his career.
Yeah, for sure. Question for you though.
Yep.
Javon Baker, he transferred out right when Jermaine Burton was transferring in. Was scared to compete. This is Javon Baker, your guy, versus my guy, Jermaine Burton. Jermaine Burton didn't transfer to UCF. He didn't want to go compete.
No, I did not want to compete at Georgia. I mean, this is just what happens.
Well, he led Alabama in receiving.
I know, but transfer is now like something that is inherent to college football.
Sure.
Then Javon Baker went on to have like an outstanding final 2 seasons at UCF.
Yeah.
If you want to go 1 for 1 here and have Javon Baker versus Jermaine Burton in the NFL in their careers, we can check back here in 4 years and see who came out on top.
Could I get at least some draft capital? I just want to.
Nope.
Hey, I don't interview these guys. I don't know what's going on besides this.
You brought it up. I didn't bring it up.
I was saying it was just curious that Jermaine Burton's getting 0 love out there when he was the Alabama leading receiver. I will say for, I don't know, all the Alabama players that have led the team in receiving over the last 2 decades, I would guess almost all of them are first round picks, except it's going to be Jermaine Burton. So we'll see. I think it was just very hard to tell how good he was based off of the offense since Bryce and Mac, and even before that.
It did seem different when Bryce was at quarterback, and he even missed some time versus whoever the hell was at quarterback.
Yeah, so he's a mystery player. Like there's a couple of these guys where like I've seen enough guys on round 3, round 4 where I'm like, I just don't see the upside. With Jermaine Burton's kind of like with Johnny Wilson stuff, is there's something to this that I'm intrigued by. The bust rate is phenomenally high, but there's also like a path to him being a legit number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah, like you have to again transcend that like Donovan Peoples-Jones type of player who's all athlete running down the field. Okay, as Hayden and I alluded to, we have wide receiver rankings on the channel. Go down, click the button, watch them, and watch like the nearly 30 plus draft profiles that we're going to have on this channel by the time the NFL draft rolls around. So the more of you that hit that subscribe button, the more videos that we get to make, and we will check you on the next one.